I've had the GPD Pocket for about 2 weeks now, and I've done a lot of testing on it. Computer-based testing and gaming-based testing. 2 weeks later, I've done enough that I can review the system, review the hardware, so let's get started. Here is my hardware review of the miniature laptop, the GPD Pocket. The first thing we're going to talk about is the actual hardware design of this system. You have basic laptop design. You have a hinge, a top, and a bottom. The top part of the device is the 7-inch touchscreen that you see here, and the bottom part is everything else. We've got our full QWERTY keyboard here, along with a power button in the top right corner to turn the system on and off, and you've got a little mouse nub here down on the bottom. This is very similar to the mouse nubs that you might have seen on, say, old IBM laptops. If you're not familiar with those, the analog nub on the new 3DS. It's similar to that. Then we look on the side, we've got our ports here, a single USB 3.0 port, a headphone jack for headphones or headsets, a micro HDMI port for video out, and a USB-C port for the charger. This is pretty simple, there's not a whole lot crammed into this, which they probably couldn't cram a lot into it, because look at how small it is. And that pretty much covers the hardware design. Now let's talk about the software, operating system, and the specifications. First of all, the GPD Pocket costs about $500, which is about $100 more than backers had to pay, and it comes preloaded with either Windows 10 Home Edition, but there's also a Ubuntu Linux offering that you can get if you're more of a Linux person. Now, I went with Windows 10, and with the Windows 10 setup, it was very simple, so you just kind of boot it up, and Cortana guides you through the Windows setup. You saw a little bit of this in my first video I did when I first did the unboxing. Now, as far as specifications go, outside of the $500 price tag, we're going to give you just a little bit of basic info. The processor is a Z8750 Intel processor. It's got 1.66 GHz base clock speed. We have 8 GB of RAM to work with, and our screen resolution defaults at 1920 by 1200. So, if you're comparing it to the GPD Win, all in all, it's a little bit more advanced. The processor is slightly more enhanced, twice as much RAM, more resolution, but that's about all I'm going to cover here. Next is the section that a lot of you are looking for, using the GPD Pocket as a gaming platform. We know that the specs are a little bit higher than the Win, so logic states that it should be able to run games better, right? I thought so, and not exactly. I ran into a few problems when I was trying to enhance performance. On the GPD Pocket, there's almost nothing you can edit in the BIOS screen, versus dozens upon dozens of things you could edit in the BIOS screen on the GPD Win. There's no Intel HD graphics application to modify graphics, so you're stuck using base Windows settings, going into Task Manager to make sure your applications are set for high priority, and just the default use low settings in games that offer it. Now, when I was doing all my PC tests, I got some decent results. Doom 3, Skyrim, and Fallout 3 ran 30, 40, 50 FPS. Fallout New Vegas was kind of chugging at 20 to 25 FPS, and I even dived into the MMO environment, as you can see here, with Star Trek Online, which I got running about 20 to 35 FPS during missions, and chugging along really low, around 10 to 15 FPS at Space Dock. We're not talking about a huge gaming platform here. It doesn't run games as well as the GPD Win did because there aren't as many options to enhance performance. But you can still get a good number of games and experiences running decently. The big thing here is Bethesda games, which you can run Skyrim and Fallout 3 really, really smoothly. Fallout New Vegas, kind of smooth. There's not much else to talk about with gaming here. I tried a few emulators, didn't really feel like it was worth making an entire video or section based off of it. I tried Super Nintendo, GBA, and Nintendo 64, and they all ran flawlessly, so if you want some simple emulators, those will work really nicely. Now comes a section that doesn't really fit my channel, but I didn't really feel right reviewing a laptop without having a computer use section here. I've been using the GPD Pocket as my main computer for 2 weeks, so how usable is it as a computer? As far as software, everything works really nicely. Photo editing, word processing, video streaming, all of that works wonderfully, and even better than my Surface Pro 2 does. The main thing with small computers that you always have to look at is the keyboard. Now we've got our full keyboard here. We've got some pretty decent sized buttons. They're almost as big as the buttons on the Surface Pro's type cover. And in my experience, typing on the letters hasn't really been cramped at all. It's a little weird considering the symbols to the right of the M key are very small keys compared to the rest, but overall I only really have two problems with the keyboard. The first is the power button. You see the power button up at the top right corner of the keyboard, and the problem isn't really the power button, it's what lies directly below it, the backspace button. The backspace button is only half as tall as all the other letter keys. So half the time when I'm typing and I reach my finger up to hit backspace when I mistype something, I accidentally hit the power button and it goes into sleep mode. The other is the apostrophe button. Now if you've typed on most keyboards, you're expecting the apostrophe button to be directly to the left of the enter button. On here, it's way down here, underneath the right side shift button, above the arrow keys. This is extremely awkward, and it took me well over a week of constant typing to be able to actually teach myself to reach down and use that for apostrophe. I keep reaching over here and hitting the enter key. It's really awkward, and honestly, I think the keyboard and the device could have been an inch or two wider and it would have been fine, just to be able to put that apostrophe button up where it's supposed to be. Now, let's get on to battery life, because with all portable devices, especially laptops where you're going to be doing a lot of computing, you need it to last. Gamepad Digital claimed the GPD Pocket would last 12 hours on a full charge. In my experience, that's not entirely accurate. With Wi-Fi on, the battery lasts about 7 to 8 hours for me. Granted, that is really a decent battery size, and it's great compared to the, 2-3 hours of the GPD Win's battery, but just don't expect the full 12 hours. 7 to 8 hours is pretty much what you're going to get, especially if you're using the internet. Now, aside from the keyboard mishaps, the only thing I have to complain about is the mouse nub. And it's because it's a mouse nub. These were the default back in the IBM days, which was like 10, 20 years ago. And really, the nub just makes the cursor move so slow that anybody that lacks patience won't be able to put up with it. Honestly, they could have put a little touchpad in there. Now, in conclusion, the GPD Pocket is an interesting miniature laptop that's just small enough to be ultra portable, and just powerful enough to manage some games like Skyrim and Fallout 3. Although the computing usability is held back a little bit by two of the keyboard keys and the fact that it uses a mouse nub instead of a touchpad, it's otherwise a really nice little laptop that I personally plan on using on a regular basis for a very long time. Reviews to Go rates the GPD Pocket an 8 out of 10. If you'd like to comment on this further, feel free to below, or head to the website at www.reviewstogo.com.